Welcome back inside the Stingray Show. I finally got me some water, so my voice is a lot better than the last segment. I do apologize about that, but Heath, I'm gonna blame it on this darn dryness. We need some rain.
Brother, I'm getting rained on here outside of Memphis right now. It's raining like crazy. So maybe we could share that a little bit with you here later on.
Okay, so we just finished up before the break talking about this matchup with Mississippi State and Tennessee from the Tennessee perspective. Now, let's talk about it from the owner of Gene's Page and the host of the BoneYard over in Starkville, Mississippi, Mr. Steve Robertson. Steve, how are things with you over in Starkville, Mississippi, as we sit here awaiting the Tennessee Volunteers to invade on Saturday?
Yeah, we're doing great. I like to tell those that are watching the video, I'm really not a vampire. I'm not getting ready for Halloween or anything. I had a chance. My camera's broken, so I'm having to use another one. So I look a little more pale. So this is not Interview with a Vampire. This is really Mississippi State versus Tennessee. So
Gotcha.
I rewatched that movie this summer. I forgot how terrible that movie. There's a reason why I stopped watching it. I didn't watch it anymore. But we'll save that for another show in the summer.
I can't
Steve,
believe they
what
remade it though. I mean, like number one, it was if you love it, you love it, right?
Yeah.
It's
right?
like why did they remake Red Dawn? Why did they remake Footloose? Why did they remake Interview with a Vampire? Those movies were great as they were,
Yeah.
but it's like, you can't come up with any fresh ideas. I mean, come on.
They can't. They can't. It's easier to go back to the well, and of course we know the well is dry. Steve, one thing I want to ask you about this football game is the fan base that's going to be there Saturday night in Starkville. I just think it's going to be even bigger than it was with Arizona State.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be louder. I know that's hard to believe. The Arizona State game, they were hoping for a win. Now they're kind of expecting a win. It's been a long time since Mississippi State's been expecting things, and it's a good thing that they're kind of getting back into that swing. Who's the better quarterback in this one? Joey Aguilar has looked great this year. There was a lot of doubts of him coming in. Blake Shapen's always been injured, but we've seen what he's done. He's been MVP of the Big 12 game before. Who's got the better quarterback in this matchup?
I think that remains to be seen.
Okay.
And I give Joey Aguilar a lot of credit. I mean, this is a guy that didn't get the benefit of spring practice with Tennessee. He's had to put all this together in the offseason. He's been very good with ball security. He's got 3 picks, and one of those came against UAB this past Saturday on a deflected pass. Like a corner gets in there on Brazel, bounces up, safety nabs it. So that's not on your quarterback. So he's doing a good job protecting the football, and they're doing a good job protecting him. Tennessee's just allowed 2 sacks. And, of course, they played Georgia, right? Maybe you don't expect UAB or Syracuse to get to the quarterback. You expect Georgia to get there. So in 4 games, they've allowed just 2 sacks. And they do a lot of tight end concepts with him where it's kind of like a delayed release where he engages to block and then turns loose. And he's been a really good safety valve for him. What is interesting to me is there's not much rotation at wide receiver. You only have 4 players on this Tennessee roster with 10 catches or more, and one of them is the tight end. You know what Brazel can do, long, lengthy receiver. It'll be interesting to see the matchup for him and Kelly Jones. But, I think Blake Shapen can take advantage of these injuries and inexperience in this Tennessee secondary because everybody else has. I don't know, maybe outside of Georgia, if Tennessee has faced wide receivers they're going to see from Mississippi State on Saturday. Now, Georgia ran the football 55 times against Tennessee, 55 times. They had to pass it late. Of course, Gunnar Stockton just throws up a wing and a prayer. Turned out more of a prayer than a wing, but it gets caught and forces overtime. But this secondary at Tennessee is not good. They've allowed 1,114 yards, which is the most in the Southeastern Conference. They've allowed 19 passing plays for 20 yards or more, which is dead last in the Southeastern Conference. So I think this game is going to boil down to who can influence the quarterback and who can't. If State can protect Blake Shapen, State has a chance to go win this football game. If they can't, Tennessee's going to win. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But if State can get to Aguilar, make him uncomfortable, I think you got to be a little more exotic in your pressures. So I'm not ready to call that aspect of it, but I think it boils down to quarterback play.
Steve, you and I have been there covering the games. We were there against Arizona State and then, of course, against Northern Illinois. And there were a lot of drives in the Arizona State game in the second half where Mississippi State's offense really sputtered and just looked like deer in the headlights. And then there's other times where it's really humming and there's chunk plays being made and they're going to the end zone. How concerned are you about the deer in the headlights from this offense and being consistent enough against Tennessee?
Well, I don't know that I would call it deer in the headlights. I think it's really more of a lack of execution. If you go back and look at some of those drives, it's State getting in their own way. It's not State being intimidated or being overwhelmed by pressure or coverage or anything like that. I mean, you go back and look this past weekend, State has multiple explosive running plays that are called back for a hold, and I thought that the crew was a little flag happy, but the holds that I saw, at least two of the three, I thought were legitimate. There was one that was a little bit ticky-tack, but State kind of got in their own way. And then I think in the Arizona State game, this is the thing that I think is important about State. How many times in the past has the moment been too big for State? You get up 17-0, they come back and tie it, and you already think, I know how this movie's going to play out. I've seen this so many times before. But you bring in guys like Brennan Thompson and Anthony Evans that don't know the natural order of things in the SEC, and you're like, I'm going to go make a play and win a ball game, and they do. Right. So I think State grew up a lot in that moment. And so I don't think the moment will be too big playing Tennessee. State went toe-to-toe with Tennessee for a while last year. They knocked Nico Amaleva out of the game. People forget that, and then late in that game, Heupel's like, I'm tired of playing with these guys. Let's just give it to Sampson and get out of here. Right. State just didn't have enough offensively last year. And people forget Michael Van Buren was a true freshman quarterback. Blake Shapen didn't play against Tennessee. And so I think this is going to be a better game, and some people are anticipating. And, of course, I think the spread opened at 9.5 and was down to like 7.5. And I think this is going to be a very competitive game. I do think Tennessee is extremely leaky in the secondary. Right. And so that's where you begin to ask, how does that influence the defensive play calling? Do they play an extra safety? Do they back the backers up a little bit? Can State then kind of allow the running game to get going? Can you get things rolling against that Tennessee front, which is really good? If you can make Tennessee commit a safety to the box, I think Mississippi State can win this football game.
Also, I would like for you to speak on, because last year Mississippi State was dreadful on defense. Talk about the upgrade that you have seen and the strides that this Mississippi State defense has made from last year to this year, please.
Well, I don't want to talk poorly of anybody, right? But the truth of the matter is State had some guys here last year that weren't good enough to play here, right. And I think it was the Arkansas game. State on the interior against one of the most grueling running teams in the country, and certainly in this conference, started Kai McClendon, a 6-foot true freshman defensive tackle out of Gulfport, Mississippi. He's gone for the year this year with an ACL, and we do think he's got a bright future ahead of him. Next to him was Corey Clark, a junior college player that they signed in June that didn't have anywhere to go. And then you're trying to go win an SEC game with those guys. I mean, it's almost cruel and unusual punishment.
Right.
Well, now, you look like an SEC football team up front. Northern Illinois is a run-first offense. This is an offense that went into South Bend, Indiana, and beat Notre Dame last year, a team that played for the national championship. State held them to 125 yards rushing, their lowest total of the year. In addition to that, they've been averaging 74 yards on defense and rush defense. They played Maryland, played Holy Cross. I mean, Holy Cross is Holy Cross, right? But Maryland's a Power 4 opponent, and you've given up 148 yards. State ran for almost 300 against those guys. Yes. So the physicality to kind of exert your will exists now where it didn't a year ago. Last year, it was just, it was painful. Yes. Because you knew, teams didn't have to take a risk in the passing game. You just line up and run it right at State, and you're getting 5 and 6 yards a carry. Why would you ever throw it? it's different. Teams have to kind of attack this team with a more honest, offense these days.
Steve, looking at this Tennessee defense, you talked about how the secondary was leaky, your term. This rush defense, is there anything that shocks you, stands out to you, anything that catches you off guard or wows you? What do you know about this Tennessee defense?
They can eat up double teams. And what's interesting, UAB had one rushing first down in that game. One. That's it. One. They had 18 first downs total. 17 of them came through the air. So not a single penalty first down. So Tennessee didn't beat themselves. And how many times do you see it, right? On third and short, you get a hard count. Yeah, you see it all the time. This is a very well-coached group. And it's going to be interesting. State's been wanting to rotate 3 guards, 3 tackles, and then play Cannon Boone at center. I think maybe if you find 5 that work well together in this game, I think maybe if you can get the running game going, maybe you ride that 5 for a while rather than rotate, because this is one of the more physical fronts. I thought the Tennessee front last year was the most physical front that Mississippi State faced, bar none. And Ole Miss was really good too. I give them a lot of credit. It's a different dynamic this year up front. But the Tennessee group, very, very disciplined, very well coached. Gap integrity is a thing that gets thrown around a lot. Those guys don't get out of the gaps. Those guys do a really good job fitting and making you bounce it outside. And if you don't have the athletes to make them pay for it, they'll just run you down and put you in third and long.
Yeah. So when you look at this matchup on Saturday, Steve, where are you most concerned that Tennessee could take advantage of Mississippi State?
Well, they got 15 sacks. That's one of the things that just kind of jumps off the page, and Jeff Levy mentioned that on Monday, is they know how to get after the quarterback, and they know how to get you behind the sticks. Now, State has shown the propensity this year to kind of recover from some of those, but you can't win a ball game consistently getting behind the sticks, especially against an opponent as quality as Tennessee. And so that stands out to me. And I guess when you have a secondary that is injury riddled as theirs is, you better be able to get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, the only team they've really played, I think, with any athletes that stressed them was Georgia. Outside of that, Syracuse, obviously, they're a decent team, but they're not an SEC caliber roster. Mississippi State, I think, is beneath Georgia, but ahead of Syracuse. And Syracuse gets down in that ball game and kind of scratches back and kind of it's tit for tat the rest of the way.
Right.
I think the main thing, and this is one of the things that your previous guest talked about, was the fast start for Tennessee. They have scored on their opening drive 4 straight games. Well, so is Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And last year, Mississippi State scored 65 first quarter points the entire season. It's a much different dynamic. State is almost at that point now, 4 games in. And so Jeff Levy and his crew are doing a better job in that respect. But I think the main thing you got to do is you got to get off to a quick start. You can't get down 2 scores in the first and end up kind of chasing the game. I think Tennessee's front is just not going to allow that. They'll be able to kind of pin their ears back. You can really play defense when you're up 2 scores. You can be real aggressive and take chances. And that's what State has to avoid.
Right.
Steve, looking at special teams, does anything jump out at you in this matchup with Tennessee and Mississippi State?
It's funny. I looked at those numbers just a while ago. I think both kickers will give you touchbacks because that's what they've done all year. I think Tennessee's only had 3 kickoffs that didn't result in touchbacks. State's kind of in the same boat, and one of those was a ball that was run out of the end zone. State did kick 1 ball out of bounds. Marlon Hawk's done a good job this year. That's the only mistake he's made, but it seems like it all kind of came in bunches. Like State had 5 special teams penalties last week, and that's something you got to clean up. You can't do that. Even in a win, that's unacceptable. But I think for State too, I think you got to maybe abandon the 2 punter system. I think Ethan Pulliam has kind of proven to be the better punter, and you're going to need somebody to flip the field. You don't want to give Tennessee the short field. You want to make them drive the length of the field. And I think Pulliam's had a couple of kicks over 50 yards. He's had multiple inside the 20. He had a couple of really big ones. I thought his best game as a punter came against Northern Illinois. You're going to need that as a weapon. Now, Tice is a guy. It's an Australian rules guy. He's had 2 punts for 21 yards, and both of them have immediately led to opponent points. And so I think in a game like this, you have to go with the hot hand And I think that's got to be Ethan Pulliam. And looking at what Tennessee has done, they haven't allowed many returns. That tells me you're getting a lot of hang time on those punts. And so I think with State's, blocking the backs last week, they had 2 on one play and only one of them got called. I mean, it's just kind of part of the deal. Anthony Evans is a weapon. I don't know how many opportunities he'll have to return it, but it may be better to adopt the Mike Leach philosophy and just fair catch it and go play offense rather than just kind of screw up your operation. But I don't think there's going to be many plays made in the return game because both teams have such good specialists. But I think somebody can get that shanked punt or a block punt or something like that. It could have a big impact in the ball game.
All right. How do you see it playing out Saturday there in Starkville between Mississippi State and the Tennessee Volunteers? And Tennessee has not invaded Mississippi State or Starkville since 2012.
And they lost that game 41-31.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things, too. You go back, Tyler Russell, throws a great pass to Malcolm Johnson. He gets his foot down. They actually reviewed it. It was clear that he was in. It took forever to review that. It's like somebody in Birmingham is like, wait a minute, this isn't supposed to happen, but it did. And, I think Tennessee wins, but I think State has a chance to cover here. And I won't be surprised at all if State wins this game. I just think Tennessee, from a talent differential, is ahead of Mississippi State.
Right.
And talent wins a lot of ball games. Now, if State can go out there and generate some turnovers and win the turnover battle here, you got a chance because you get that extra possession. But if State doesn't beat themselves, I think Tennessee is in for a real fight. I don't think this is a game where Tennessee just comes out and gets up big and just sleepwalks the rest of the way. One of the things I found is interesting, and I wanted to make sure we got this on the show. Deshaun Bishop is a very talented running back at Tennessee. And you hear all this chatter about the cowbells. And, of course, every time State begins to win, all of a sudden we have to revisit the cowbell issue, which I think just kind of shows how soft the rest of the league is at times. I mean, but Bishop said in the Monday media availability at Tennessee, he said, I can't wait to hear those cowbells. He goes, hearing them on TV, when I watch them, it's very intriguing. I can't wait to hear it in person. And then you hear other players on that team like Talander. He's like, I think it's going to be a great environment. This is why you play college football. And so to all of those folks, number one, don't even attend games. Okay, let's just go ahead and let's just pull the pin and throw it out there. You're not even attending the games, but you have strong opinions about Mississippi State's cowbells. Well, you can take them and shove them. But when you have the players of the Southeastern Conference saying, I can't wait to go play in that environment, this is why you play in the SEC.
Yeah.
I think you got to get over yourself a little bit. But at the end of the day, State's fans have got to abide by the cowbell compromise of 2010, where you're not ringing. And I thought last week the administration did a good job. It's mainly the student section. They're new, right? They weren't around that we didn't have cowbells from 1974 to 2010. They didn't live through that like we did. So we're educating people on how to ring responsibly.
Yes.
It was much better last week, and I think it'll be better. And, of course, there'll be a lot of SEC observers there kind of making sure we hold in compliance. And so that's an important aspect. Create a good home environment, but make sure we abide by the compromise.
Steve, before we get out of here, I would love to get your take on the hot topic out of Norman, Oklahoma, of Auburn getting absolutely screwed by the refs in that game on Saturday. Your thoughts on Auburn and Oklahoma, please.
Well, I didn't get a chance to see the game because I was covering the game, but I have seen the clips. And that's one great thing about social media. If you missed anything, somebody will clip it, show it to you later. I didn't think it was just the one play, though. The scoop and score they took off the board. When I saw that, I don't know if there was really enough to overturn that. And obviously, I'm not a replay official. I don't know what the requirements are to do that. And at times I wonder why we even have replay. And this is kind of one of them. I didn't think there was enough to overturn it. And I don't have any skin in the game whatsoever. So that scoop and score, that's a touchdown that comes off the board for Auburn. And then you have Satania in a hideout position. And every official in flag football knows you can't do that. And
Right.
we pay so much money as a member institution of the Southeastern Conference. I mean, we are the premier conference in the country when it comes to football. Officials need to be held to a higher standard. And now Greg Sankey has been very responsive to this stuff at times. I'll be surprised if that crew is officiated in an SEC game this weekend. I'll be surprised if they are, because there have been situations in the past where these things have popped up and Sankey has acted and in the best interest of the league and been very transparent about it. And I know there's some people in striped shirts that don't like it when they get transparent. I think transparency is great for the game. And
Yes.
the fans are stockholders like never before in the Southeastern Conference. You have an obligation to your fans and to your schools to ensure that there is a fair assessment and enforcement of the rules. And when that is violated, when that trust is breached, the public needs to know that these people are being held accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steve, something that Stephen and I talked about on the show last night is there's two things we think that the SEC and all conferences could do, and we would avoid so many more of these situations. Stop with the conference officials. Make them NCAA officials. There's no such thing as an SEC official anymore. And just kind of make it all even. I'm okay if you keep crews together, but I would like to see this, that the officials, we're holding the coaches to a press conference after a game. We're holding players to a press conference after the game. I think we need to hold officials to a press conference after a mandatory press conference. I think if you do those two things, a lot of this stuff gets cleaned up, especially the replay official. I think it would get cleaned up. Your thoughts on how we can clean it up and make officiating better? Because I've heard on your podcast many times, especially when it comes to girls basketball, women's basketball, that the officiating is just terrible at times. We've seen it in SEC baseball. We see it like we did this past weekend with SEC football. Your thoughts on how we can make officiating better in the SEC/college sports?
Well, yeah, I think we have taken some steps. We're not there yet. The one thing I would say, years ago, back when Southern Sports Tonight was a thing, I recommended to Max Howell, we needed to make the white hat available for postgame for explanation on certain calls. I don't know the harm in that. I mean, it's like we expect an 18-year-old kid who dropped a touchdown pass in the Iron Bowl to go stand before the media after his heart's been ripped out. He's embarrassed. By the time he picks up his phone, everybody's clipped that. They're tagging him in it. They're making fun. We expect that kid to go face the media, but a grown man can't go do it and explain a call that he made. That's a joke, man. That is an absolute joke. We expect coaches to go in there and defend their decisions. And the reality of it is the officials aren't making decisions. They're enforcing the rules. And if you have done a good job enforcing the rules, you should have no problem explaining yourself. I think that's the problem. I think they're worried that people like us will put them in a situation where they're probably going to say something that they shouldn't, right? And it's maybe a situation where there's some ambiguity. And I listen, I commend Greg Sankey and those guys. When we had back in Hoover 2 years ago, there was the wild LSU South Carolina game. You remember that in baseball? And we had the catcher balk, and there was all kind of stuff like that. Before the press conferences, you had the head of SEC baseball officiating come out and explain the rule and explain how things were called. I thought that was a beautiful thing. We need more of that in football. I don't know what we're scared of. You know, that's the thing that bothers me. The more that you keep private, the more these conspiracy theories are going to pop up. Yeah. And I've recommended, when we had some issues a while back, I wrote an article, you can probably find it online, called Refs, Lies, and Videotape. And it got a lot of traction. And there were some calls that were like favoring Alabama, or at least appeared to. And the point that I was making is Alabama didn't need any help, right?
Right.
So I think in some ways it was disrespectful to Alabama, who was an incredible team and won a national championship that year, to make it look like that the officials were helping them because they simply didn't need it. And so I think in some ways it made these people buying this conspiracy that the league is protecting Alabama. I don't believe that was true, but that's the appearance. And once it gets on Twitter, it becomes fact.
So, Steve, look, man, this has been a blast as it is always. Go and enjoy the prep work for Tennessee this weekend. Enjoy covering the game, and we would love to catch up with you to continue our discussion of the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Steve, I want to ask you one quick thing as we walk out the door. Your thoughts on the three permanent opponents for Mississippi State, that being Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and Alabama starting next year in 2026. Your thoughts?
Well, John Cohen worked for like 6 years to get Alabama off the schedule, and then now we've got them right back after what, a 2-year hiatus. I think honestly, I think a lot of Mississippi State fans enjoy playing Alabama, not just because of the fact that it's a shorter drive, but also too. State is when they've won, it's been very significant because Alabama has been the measuring stick. And I think economically, when you begin to think about the new world in which we live. There was some chatter that Texas A&M was going to be there instead of Alabama. Texas A&M is not going to sell their allotment of tickets at Davis Wade Stadium. But you know what? The fine folks from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, are going to buy up every ticket available. And so economically, it makes a lot of good sense for State. And then you get Vanderbilt. That's 4 hours from here, and then you get Ole Miss just up the road. So I think it's going to work really well, I think, for the fan experience, because I think Mississippi State folks, while they may not want to admit it, like playing Alabama. But you've got 3 SEC opponents that are going to be in a reasonable driving distance, so you can attend those road games and have a really nice contingent of Mississippi State fans there.
Steve, look, man, good luck. Hail State this weekend, and we'll catch up with you later on, okay?
See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. So, Heath, to wrap up the Stingray show, we've got 2 minutes left. Mississippi State and Tennessee. The last time they faced off in Starkville was a 41-31 win in 2012. How do you see it playing out in Starkville Saturday? Bulldogs or Rocky Top?
One of two ways. If Tennessee wins this game, they're going to win this well before the fourth quarter. This game will be decided before the fourth quarter. It won't be close. Tennessee wins by double digits. If this game is not decided by the fourth quarter, Tennessee will get embarrassed. They will lose. And, Stephen, we will have to say and admit the Mississippi State Bulldogs are 5-0 on the season, with 1 game away from being bowl eligible, coming off a 2-10 win campaign the season before. This is insanity.
Heath, you know I graduated from Mississippi State, right? I have a degree
I'm aware of that.
in sports in broadcast meteorology. I was the Mississippi State ranter for years over at Mississippi State. Fear the bells! Yada, yada, yada. But Heath, I'm not a homer. I don't think Mississippi State has the talent right now. I think it's better, but I don't think Mississippi State has the talent to hang with Tennessee right now.
I think that's safe to say.
I hope I'm wrong. I will be pulling for Mississippi State on Saturday. I just don't think they get it done. I have not seen Mississippi State's offense consistently enough move the football in order for them to win this game, in my opinion. I'm really concerned, like I was talking with Steve Robertson about the deer in the headlights and the issue there with Mississippi State not being able to go and move the ball down the field consistently. That's why I've got Tennessee going into Starkville and winning this football game.
Well, Steve touched on this, and I believe Steve's very accurate on this. Who's going to protect their quarterback better? Whoever protects their quarterback better is going to win this game. If Joey Aguilar is being protected and he completes some of those deep passes down the field, and I think he only has to complete 30% of those deep passes, Tennessee will win. But if they don't, and here's some of the unknowns and the knowns that we know. Josh Heupel's not good on the road. Josh Heupel's really not good on the road in his first road, true road test each season. And the unknown is Joey Aguilar. How is he going to react to this insane environment? It will be just rabid down there. I mean, it is going to be unbearable for Tennessee at times with all the noise. But we'll have to find out. Who's got better talent? Tennessee. Who's got the better coach? Tennessee. Who's got the better quarterback? We won't know until Saturday. We really don't. I'm not confident saying Joey Aguilar is better than hardly anybody in the SEC, but I really like him right now. But he hasn't really played anybody. He hasn't been tested. He sure hadn't been tested on the road in an SEC environment. Blake Shapen, MVP of the Big 12 a couple of years ago in the championship game when he was at Baylor. But he's been injured so much. So we don't know.
Yeah.
So with that, I think it's a toss-up. But, Steven, if you had to ask me now, I'm leaning Tennessee in a double-digit win. But if that game's close going into the fourth quarter, you can forget about it. Mississippi State will pull that one out.
Heath, the final thing I will say before we wrap this up, this is most concerning to me. Mississippi State against a MAC team, a group of 5 team against Northern Illinois, 11 penalties for over 103 yards. That is major with an SEC team looming. They've got to fix that.
Well, any kind of pre-snap penalty has to be fixed. I mean, you can't have pre-snap penalties. You just can't.
No.
That's just ridiculous, and it's uncalled for. That's just lack of focus and lack of discipline.
Yep.
So, could that be something that comes into play? Yeah. I don't think it will, but it could.
Right.
We'll just have to wait and see. I will say this. I think that will be one of the best games to watch in the first half here on come Saturday. But if Mississippi State makes that a game going into the fourth quarter, you can forget about it.
All right. So, guys, that is going to wrap up the Tuesday evening edition of the Stingray Show. When we come back on Wednesday, immediately following Hey Coach at 7:30, it is all going to be about the matchup that everybody here is waiting for, Alabama and Georgia. We will be joined by a beat writer from Georgia and Joe Gaither from Bama Central. Joins us immediately following Hey Coach for a preview of Alabama and Georgia, and we will catch you on the Wednesday evening edition of the Stingray Show at the time of 7:30 p.m. See you then.